the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
At the end of June.
I always said Alabama wouldn't miss a beat. Kalen DeBoer.
That's what I've always said.
I had no doubts ever.
Well, Matt Green, let's get into our theme of the night here in the who will be the main character of these particular college football SEC East, now defunct SEC East. And I think, doesn't Texas and Oklahoma come in officially at midnight here? Aren't they officially SEC teams at midnight tonight?
July 1st. Yeah.
That's
right.
Okay. So we're here.
It's official.
It is official. So first up, a team that we've talked about here at the top of the show here, Matt Green, the Georgia Bulldogs. So who, in your estimation, will be the main character of the Georgia Bulldogs in the 2024 college football season?
Okay, so we'll see if we have the same definition with this exercise. But the guy, I feel like, Carson Beck is obviously the face of this offense. But I feel like the guy that's going to be the catalyst this year is going to be Trevor Etienne. Because you look at what Georgia's had the last couple of years, and obviously James Cook, I mean, what he's done in the NFL so far, he looks like a baller. But at Georgia, he wasn't really given that workload. Zamir White, just a solid player. Last couple of years, Dejon Edwards, Kendall Milton, Kenny McIntosh, just had a couple just real solid players at the running back position. It's been a while since Georgia kind of just had a feature back in the backfield, and I think that's what you're going to see with Trevor Etienne this year. Like, I think you're going to, like we were kind of talking with Georgia splitting out the sharing the stats. Like, I'm sure Etienne's not going to rush for 1,600 yards or something, and he might not be first team all SEC. But I do think he's a 1,000-yard rusher. I think, like you were kind of alluding to, this is not the deepest backfield for Georgia this year. So I think Trevor Etienne is going to be one of those guys that, like, the receiving play, the receivers are going to be solid. Like, you don't have Ladd McConkey, you don't have Brock Bowers, but I think how good the passing game has been the last couple of years is kind of overshadowed Georgia's running game being kind of pedestrian. Like, I mean, like, you look at the stats, like, they are, like, I think they finished 21st this past year and 19th the year before in rushing offense. Like, they've had good numbers, but I think you just, when you do the eye test, when you look at Georgia's running game, it's just left a little bit to be desired. So I think you're going to see, like, maybe they don't replace exactly what Bowers and McConkey were in the past game, but I think with the running game being even better, that could kind of balance that out.
Interesting. I did not think you were going to go Trevor Etienne here, sir. I wonder. I think he's going to be. He's interesting too, because I think there's a part of this for Carson Beck that what kind of year he has affects Carson Beck's Heisman chances, right? Like, if Trevor Etienne has a really, really big time year, and kind of what we were talking about at the top of the show, which is Georgia not having a 1,000-yard receiver since Terrence Edwards. Like, if one of these transfer receivers and or Arian Smith or whoever, Dylan Bell, they don't have like breakout all-time great, or I shouldn't say all-time great, just breakout seasons, just really, really good years for Georgia, like a George Pickens type. Does Carson Beck, without Brock Bowers, who Oscar Delp should be good, but I don't like, it's just, he's not going to be Brock Bowers. Will he have enough juice around him to finish first in the Heisman and win a Heisman? If Etienne, I mean, what helps is Etienne is good out of the backfield. He'll be able to catch passes. He'll be able to help there. But I wonder how much the combination of a great season, kind of like Jahmyr Gibbs and Bryce Young 2 years ago, right? Where you couldn't really tell because Jahmyr Gibbs was doing so much because the pass catchers and guys around Bryce Young just weren't as good as what we've known with the Jalen Waddles and the Devontae Smiths and company. Like, that kind of hurt Bryce, because I watched Bryce Young like almost single-handedly beat Tennessee in Knoxville that night and was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And Bryce Young was just still the engine that kept that Alabama team moving. But Jahmyr Gibbs was sensational too. And it was just, I mean, he's been good in the NFL and you see that right away. I wonder if Trevor Etienne is the same kind of transfer in. He gives this Georgia offense some more juice and steals some of the limelight, because I think, I just wonder how that goes week over week between that 1-2 punch. Like, it's a good thing for Georgia fans. Like, you want them both to do well and to win, but I wonder how much it hurts Carson's narrative for a Heisman if Trevor Etienne is the main character for the Dogs this year.
If he's truly like the best player on the offense, like I would be surprised by that. I kind of look at Trevor Etienne being kind of like a catalyst on like just I guess more of like an X factor. Like if Trevor Etienne is like actually like one of the best running backs in the SEC, like it feels like Georgia's going to be unstoppable on offense. Like I feel confident that Carson Beck is going to be one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the conference. And you kind of know what you're getting with him. Like, he is replacing, some of the weapons at receiver, but I feel confident in what Carson Beck is going to give you. But Etienne feels like he could take the offense to the next level.
Interesting. Well, I had Oscar Delp here on my list,
Okay,
Matt Green.
Elaborate.
So it's kind of the same jokes we hear, like you talked about, like what the kid who just committed is going to get with Lab McConkey and stuff, like the 3-star that Kirby's going to put him in the Georgia lab, and he's going to be really good, and he's going to be a future NFL receiver, this, that, and the other. I think Oscar Delp's a good player. I think Oscar Delp is going to be good for Georgia this year. He showed some flashes last year. I think week over week, he's going to be a main character talking point on broadcasts and by Georgia fans, because I think there might be some inner Georgia fan turmoil with Oscar Delp this year. It's not because of the losses, but I think my prediction is you're going to be so annoyed by your family's discourse, your friends, like what you're seeing online. The Oscar Delp discourse at Georgia this fall, I think, is going to be very, very frustrating for Georgia fans, because I think the casuals are going to be like, okay, what is this? You've become so used to the dominant, like Heisman type guys, like a top 10, top 15 guy, like the Darnell Washingtons and the Brock Bowers, that Oscar Delp's gonna be fine. Hunter Yurisek's gonna be fine, but they're not gonna gobble up as just these unblockable, unguardable forces out in the perimeter, out in the flats. Like Oscar Delp's gonna be okay, but he's not gonna be Kyle Pitts. He's not gonna be Brock Bowers.
Delp's not gonna take over the Auburn game.
No, like that's not happening. That's a great point. Like Oscar Delp is not taking over a situation and bailing Carson Beck out and the offense out and a tough environment at Auburn. So I think Oscar Delp is going to be this, and it's not fair to him, but he's the guy following the best tight end in Georgia history. The guy who will never be, you're just, the Brock Bowers just don't exist very often. Like it's going to be very hard to see somebody like that ever come across Stanford
That's
Stadium
what I was
again.
telling you. It's going to be the curse, just like the Herschel Walker thing. Every good running back getting compared to Herschel, but we'll see. Honestly, I'm not even thinking about Yurosek. Like I forget that he's even on Georgia's team. Like that'll be the ultimate X factor, because with how Georgia's recruited, like you wouldn't think that Georgia would have needed to go to the portal with Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky and even Jaden Riddell coming in. And I'm sure there's another big time, like a fairly highly ranked one I'm forgetting. But so Yurosek, like if this guy is good enough to come in and play, then he's got to be pretty good to be better than some of those other guys. So that's another guy. You know how Georgia has liked to run these 2 tight end sets the last couple of years. But I also wonder if they run 2 tight end sets because they had Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers. Like they're not going to have those guys all the time. So I don't think they're going to run 2 tight ends as much as they were, because you can't just be as honest as far as, are we going to run, or are we going to pass, because of how dynamic those 2 guys were. And Oscar Delp.
Fair. Well, let's go to Tennessee, Matt Green. Your main character for my Tennessee Volunteers here this year will be who?
So I think this guy is just kind of a perfect microcosm of what Tennessee football is in 2024. And that's Nico Iamaleava. Like, obviously the quarterback, most important position on the field, but it's the exact type of player he is. Like, he's obviously super.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.